Before her name went viral and became a hashtag for anyone claiming a race or culture they were not born into, Rachel Dolezal says she was living her life as an active member of the Black community. Many within her community saw Rachel as a respected civil rights activist. She was president of the local NAACP chapter and an instructor of Africana Studies at Eastern Washington University with a bachelor's in arts and a master's in fine art from Howard University. Then, in 2015, this childhood photo of a blonde-haired white Rachel was a piece of her unraveling. When it was revealed she had constructed a life around Black culture, Rachel was fired from her job, forced off community boards. Social media erupted, hundreds of thousands of tweets mocking her, while others were disgusted by her perceived role as a culture vulture. Today, almost 6 years later, Rachel says she is still being punished, unable to find a job in the field she'd been thriving in for years and struggling to provide for her 3 sons. Though she admitted she did not correct some assumptions that she was Black, she questions the pound of flesh she's still required to pay for her actions. Rachel Dolezal joins us now from her home in Tucson, Arizona. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. Part of the reason I wanted you on the show is really the punishment of this. You've had the documentary. I first encountered you briefly when I was at the Today Show and you were there being interviewed. And I want to talk a little bit later about your life now and how it's been affected. But you see these headlines, and since your story, as I said at the beginning of the show, it seems like there's one a month. And it's not just Black, white, it's Latino, it's Asian, all these storylines. How do you process it, especially when your name is attached to some of these stories? Out of nowhere, hashtag Rachel Dolezal.
Right. Well, it is really tough, to relive that every day and every week, as you said. Whatever the case, if somebody's name comes up attached to what people feel is a problematic identity, then I'm hashtagged and there are memes, Kamala Dolezal, all these kind of things that have been created that come my way and I'm tagged in. And what I really wish is that people could see me, more for who I am than the what, a mother, an activist, an artist. That's really the who I am. And when it comes to race and identity, I've always identified racially as human, but have found more of a home in Black culture, in the Black community. And that hasn't changed. I mean, I'm still the same person I was in May of 2015. I'm still doing the work. I'm still pressing forward, but it has been really tough for sure. Having not had a job for 6 years, I've had to create my own job and find ways to provide for my children through braiding hair, through grant writing to bring funds into marginalized communities and Black-owned businesses and nonprofits, through painting, through doing pep talks on cameo.com. So it's definitely been a long 6 years, but I really strongly believe that, as a person, you have to just continue to be who you are. And, you can't change who you are
But you can change who you are. People change every day. And at the core of your story, isn't it in some ways about changing to what you want it to be, whether people agree with it or not? You did.
No, I mean, I don't really, I think it's more of a story for anyone who reads my book. You can really see it's a whole life, and it's more of a story of becoming than changing. It's more of a story of finding a home culturally. And it's not one of, somehow pretending or faking or changing. It's just becoming. And if I had, changed, then, there would be this flip-flopping, or maybe I would have somehow scrapped everything under pressure. But this is really just who I am. And so I really believe that if I'm going to continue to live, I have to continue to, be who I am in the midst of pressure.
And I looked at your hair and the braids, which was part of the way you made money during this time. And giving into the pressure, I guess, would have been to arrive on this show with straight, hair, or something that people did not see as culturally identifying as Black.
I'm in braids right now. And for a practical purpose of advertising what I do to provide for my children, a lot of people that see me at the grocery store or something say like, who braided your hair? And it's like, well, I did. And so then it's, well, could you do mine? And hair has been part of what I do to provide for my children. And so I've been, braiding for over 20 years. And,
It added to
so
the
it's just a really,
backlash too. I mean, you saw the memes of all the different hairstyles that people saw
yeah.
as you culturally appropriating, that of Black women and how we wear our hair. Again, 6 years later, because I don't want to just belabor every bad thing that's happened, but now
Right.
in your life, you can get a job, but the things that you're qualified to do based on your studies at Howard University and beyond, you can't really get the employment you think you deserve, right? Is that the best way to explain it?
So, I started with applying for all the things I was qualified for. And after interviews and getting turned down, I even applied to jobs that didn't even require degrees, being a maid at a hotel, working at a casino.
So you're
I
saying you
wasn't able to
couldn't
get
get a
any of those
job,
jobs either.
you couldn't get a job as a maid at a hotel because
Right.
of the stories that have followed you.
Yeah. And I think, overall I didn't really hear a reason
Hmm.
for, people. A lot of times employers don't tell you, oh, we aren't hiring you because.
Right.
But I think when there's so much negativity on just a Google search, or Wikipedia is even inaccurate about your life
Hmm.
story, and you have to direct people to, like, the only place that my true story lives is in my book, and in full color. And so I think that, people aren't going to go seek out my book if they're just looking for an employee. So
Right.
it's been tough for sure, but I have not given up.
Well, listen, one of the things about you, you have been incredibly savvy, including being smart enough to hold that book up. Because I know selling that book is how you pay your bills. You got the hair, you've done some other things on the side to try to take care of you and your boys. I'm curious about how do you end up, getting out of this? And you legally changed your name in 2016 to Nkechi Diallo. Is that so that
Mhm.
when you apply for a job, they don't say, oh, Rachel Dolezal, they see the name Nkechi Diallo?
Yes, and in fact, I was hopeful that with a new name, which by the way was given to me, I didn't actually choose that name myself, but that was something
It's a
that was
Nigerian
given.
name, correct? It's Nigerian in ancestry.
Right. Yeah. So there was a gentleman from the Igbo tribe that reached out and said, we see who you really are, and you're a gift from the gods. And Nkechi, or Nkechi means a gift from God. And so I accepted. I put that as my legal name. I changed my name in 2016 because I really wanted to be seen for my qualifications
Mm.
when I applied for a job. And as it turns out, of course, when I show up for the interview, I'm still me. And so, people in Spokane, Washington, where I was living at the time, a lot of people knew my face.
Right.
And so, I didn't move past that job interview stage. Thankfully, I was able to move to Tucson, Arizona, in 2020, and I've revamped my resume. I'm looking forward to reapplying this fall for hopefully some teaching jobs.
Mm.
But yeah.
Well, it is a fascinating journey. And to your point, Rachel, you detail a lot of it in your book. We appreciate it. I know that you've had some experiences, as you told me, that have left you traumatized, and we don't want to contribute to that, but we do want to contribute to the conversation because it is fascinating.
Th-
Thank you,
Thank
Rachel.
you so much, Tamron. And I just encourage everyone to be exactly who you are. And in this time where there's so much polarization, we really need all hands on deck to continue the work of deinstitutionalizing racism.